The following short film was produced by the Regiment's Cavalry and Historical Society in recognition of the Regiment's long and storied service to Canada. The Governor-General's Horse Guards is Canada's senior reserve army regiment and has loyally served Canada from its inception as the Denison Troop in the town of York, known today as Toronto, on August 16, 1822. Over the past 200 years, the regiment and its forebears have answered the call of the nation and participated in most major historical conflicts that have faced Canada. This short film highlights the regiment's cornerstone moments through 5 short vignettes spanning 2 centuries. The story begins with a reflection by Captain George Taylor Denison on the regiment's founding as a small troop of militia cavalry and ends with a modern regiment. I would like to thank you for joining us on this historical journey.
My dear boy, I thought I would write to tell you what great joy I felt when your father told me of your enthusiasm to join the troop when you come of age in the coming year. You will no doubt make a fine officer, even command the old troop someday. When I was commissioned from the rank of sergeant to become young ensign with the York Battalion in the war with America in 1812, I had little ambition but to serve. The United States, who picked a quarrel with Britain, crossed the border to conquer British territory. I was involved at the Battle of York in 1813 and was the officer with pluck who, with sailors and some of my men, burned the battleship HMS Sir Isaac Brock in New York Harbor during the formal surrender of our forces, denying the Yankees' capture of the largest frigate on the Great Lakes. My contemptible contribution to the cause led to my capture and detention. Thankfully, victory was achieved in 1815 and our troubles seemed over with the Ghent Treaty. Hopefully, it will remain so, but we must ever be vigilant with America's continuous aggressive expansion, hence the need for a militia. I have devoted my life to the service, as have your family. This adventure led me to 40 years of service to the Crown and the forming of our little mounted corps. War's end, the battalion was subdivided and I served with the 1st West Yorks. Promoted captain, I took command of a company, but all would change August 16, 1822, when Lieutenant Colonel Chewett approached me with orders to form a cavalry troop for the battalion. I pulled together all the best horsemen in the county that year, 40 strong. We looked splendid in our new dragoon uniforms I had commissioned. That troop has ever since been synonymous with our family. Nicknamed Denison's Troop, it continues to parade to this day, due in part to our family's long tradition of service. As you know, one of the troop's first undertakings was in 1837 supporting the civilian authority. The local unrest was seen as a threat to the stability of the province, and our troop, with other local militia, responded to the call to duty to secure the colony. Paid, uniformed, and armed by the Crown, we were put on active duty for several months until matters were resolved, and ultimately the colony survived. The troop performed brilliantly and brought acclaim from all quarters, and when security was once again established, the troop was stood down from active duty and made independent of the West Yorks. Now it looks like you will inherit the troop and take it forward with its storied past and meet new challenges. I look forward to the day you are commissioned, my dear boy. I am proud of you. Best wishes, Grandpa.
Dear George, I write to you with the most exciting news. I just confirmed the General Order was published here in Ottawa. It reads, Governor General's Bodyguard for Ontario. This corps, which consists of 4 troops, is hereby formed into a regiment. The headquarters of C Troop, Oak Ridges, and D Troop, Markham, are hereby changed to Toronto. The regiment will be a city corps. With our influence and hard work, in your capacity as the commanding officer, and mine as a member of Parliament, we effectively lobbied the government and the militia department to get our corps this long-awaited status. I received word today that you will assume command as Lieutenant Colonel. I can't help but reflect on what you and I have achieved. Remember our service in the cause against the Fenian Brotherhood, a contemptible rebel organization raised under the very noses of the U.S. government in an attempted coup of our sovereign state. To think their intent was to use Canada as a barter for the freedom of Ireland. They crossed the border armed and determined. I recall we were given such short notice, but rallied with Colonel Peacock's column in Germantown within a day to scout forward and relieve the town of Fort Erie of its Fenian occupation. I have great memories of our stout troopers patrolling the frontier on active duty for the month that followed. Not long after that adventure, you secured the title of Governor General's Bodyguard, the name given to our new regiment this day. We cannot forget your great adventure out west, where the squadron was dispatched to help secure the supply lines for the government forces dealing with the Northwest resistance to the rail line. You set out with the squadron on that incredible march, crossing the spring ice of Lake Superior on horseback, setting up Fort Denison and Humboldt Telegraph Station to establish a rear area waypoint to secure supplies, protect and provide communications, and hold the reserves and any prisoners. I recall your messages about your dealings with Chief Whitecap and his band held in your charge. A distinguished man whom you highly respected and befriended. I recall your frustration in your attempt to petition for a pardon to obtain his release from custody. Thankfully, his case was dismissed and he was released. As you articulated many times, the government should have settled that quarrel through negotiations. The entire operation was seemingly unnecessary, but the squadron performed magnificently. The noble and professional service to Canada by the bodyguard all these years justified our expansion to a regiment. We have done it, brother. I look forward to our celebration when I return home. Yours, Frederick.
October 10th. Been a while since I've made an entry. Been such a push these last 3 months chasing the Hun. It seems we never get a break. The war's nothing like I thought it would be, having joined the bodyguard in 1910. Even our training in the guards was all about mobility on horseback. That's why I joined the 4th CMR in 1914 when war was declared. No sooner did we finish training on horseback in Toronto than we were shuttled off to Valcartier, and our horses and swords were taken from us. We were issued webbing and a rifle. My pals and I were so keen to get into the fight when we reached France, and when they put us in the line, we found ourselves in trenches at Mount Sorrel. I still have nightmares about that day, June 2nd, 1916. We were shelled, mined, and assaulted all at once. The battalion was destroyed in a flash. We arrived with 760 men, and the next morning, only 70 of us answered roll call. I managed to avoid being captured. My leg broken. Buried under dirt, the medics found me the next morning. My ears still ring to this day from that explosion. We lost the originals in one blast and one attack. This was our introduction to the war. Some of us were lucky enough to get a blighty and get sent home. General Curry is a blessing to us, one of the best generals in the Commonwealth, they say. We were well looked after, fed, rested, well trained and experienced. We were feared by the Hun. We give them a good thrashing every time we're put in the line. But this war is draining. It's vicious. I still shudder when I hear shells coming in, murderous machine guns and grenades. What I hate the most is the hand-to-hand combat. The Germans use their shovels and clubs. We use some pretty terrible weapons ourselves. It's always the same. Them or us. I see new guys coming in one day, and they're dead the next. They say we've had over 3,000 serve in the battalion. So many dead and wounded. We're all fed up. Just want to get this done and go home to family. We have Jerry on the run. Hopefully, we'll get to Berlin within the month. Just need to keep my wits about me. I miss my mother and Jean the most.
Dear Lynn, I finally got a chance to write. We're on rest and refit in a harbor back of the line. The temple's been rushed all over the front these last few weeks. Very different from Italy. The Germans are demoralized and surrendering in droves. We escorted 54 paratroopers yesterday, Jerry's best soldiers. Although I don't think this lot is the same as the ones we fought in Italy. And some soldiers were a lot older while others were very young. Not as well trained, but they still put up a fight. They don't have many tanks left, but what they have are powerful. Tigers and King Tigers are the worst of them. Thankfully, our Firefly Shermans can take them out. I remember old RSM Finnemore telling us at our amalgamation parade in 1936 that we would be at war again. Few of us believed him, but here we are. It's been almost 6 years since we were mobilized, and I left you on the doorstep with a kiss. I miss you a lot. Finnemore told us stories about the trenches, gas warfare and his time as a POW. We had no idea how different this war would be. No less violent, but thankfully no gas and no trenches. It seems like we just shot through Italy, but at the same time it dragged on for months, getting nowhere, being held up again and again, first the Hitler line, then the Gustav line. Jerry was a force to be reckoned with. The paratroopers were their best, and the 26th Panzer Division and their Panzer Grenadiers were a tough lot too. Tough and professional. But they would give, eventually. We would wear them down. If you recall, Leary Valley was the big one. That was our christening in battle in spring of 1944. Almost a year ago. Funny, we spent as much time outside the tank as we did in them. The Italian terrain was just so difficult. And after Rome fell, we started to call ourselves the D-Day Dodgers. And it stuck. Here we are now, part of the 1st Canadian Army 5th Division liberating the Dutch people. They're so grateful. The Germans left them starving. We give them rations. And anything we can spare as we liberate towns and come across refugees roadside. It looks like we'll be in Germany soon enough, and I can come home to you. I have no idea what I'll do when I settle back home, but for now, I just need to survive this war. Home seems so far away. My friend Corporal Stitt was killed in an accident last week. He was the bravest guy I ever met. We can't lose more guys. The crew says hi. Love you, James.
So I asked you to come here because the society has decided to rewrite the regimental history. And so you're familiar with the book.
Yes, I'm familiar.
So that book was published in 2002, about 6 months after 9/11. And so the last 20 years, a lot of things have occurred that have impacted all of us. And so the regiment decided we need to update the history, and so I've started to interview people that were on mission, and so I've heard that you were actually involved in some pretty serious incidents. So that's why I've asked you here to have that conversation. Tell me why you volunteered and when you volunteered.
Well, I volunteered in 2009. Actually, my workup training started in September of that year, and it went until April the following year. And I was deployed from in Afghanistan from April 2010 to December same year as part of Task Force 110. What motivated me was that I have joined the Canadian Armed Forces and the Horse Guards, which is my only unit, since 1994, and I have done lots of training. So I saw it as putting my those skill set to use, and as part of the reason why I joined the forces is to be ready to deploy if needed, and so that's why I volunteered to go on this mission.
So Gary, what was the task that they gave you?
My task here was to be a section commander and a crew commander as part of a force protection group that was part of the National Support Element. The National Support Element was an organization that supports all Canadian activity in Kandahar.
Now that you were in theater, what was your daily routine?
So yes, we had a daily routine. To start off, we had 4 sections. And what we'll do is one section will be deployed, conducting what we call combat logistic patrols. And then the second section would be on standby if something else happened. And then the third section would be doing maintenance and the remaining vehicles, or they will be doing admins. And then the fourth section, hopefully, will have that day off. And that was the routine to maintain our tempo, make sure that we were always ready to go.
So after being in Afghanistan that long, there must have been some examples of actions or engagements that you might have been involved in. Can you tell us anything about your experiences?
Significant to myself was when my call sign got hit by an RPG. I was the lead call sign, and a matter of fact, there was 2 RPGs. One fell short, but the second one actually hit my call sign. And this happened when we were transporting goods from one forward operating base to a next, and we were actually doing what's called a vital point search. And we do this to ensure that there is no explosive, improvised explosive devices, or there's no bomb that would actually damage the goods or the personnel that we were carrying. Around 4 members of my crew were dismounted and checking the culvert and the area for these items when the RPG struck. We figured that what we were trying to do was wait until the ramp of my call sign was down so they can actually hit inside, which if that had occurred, myself and my gunner, maybe my driver, would be significantly injured or maybe even killed. It was fortunate that didn't happen, but what happened was the shrapnel from impact from the vehicle actually hit my 2IC, who was dismounted, and he got injured on his neck and his finger. So we had to evacuate him from the area, transport him to operating base, and which he was airlifted to hospital.
And did he survive?
Yes, he survived. Like I said, fortunately, injuries wasn't as serious, and then he got sent back to Canada. He did plastic surgery, and he recovered very well.
Now, after your tour, you must have a takeaway.
It was a good experience. Once you were there and you see what was going on, it makes you appreciate Canada more. And coming here back into Canada, you see how lucky we are to have what we have here, and that we should preserve it. And that's actually motivate you to continue to be a soldier.
I had a similar comeback, was how lucky we are. So anyways, thank you very much, Gary, for coming to talk to me.
Okay, no problem, sir. And while I was there, this is the binos I used as a crew commander in there. And now I want to present it to you for the archives.
All right, thanks.
No problem, sir.
The men and women of the Governor General's Horse Guards have, from the beginning, served their country with great courage and responsibility. As in the past, the regiment of today continues to stand on guard for Canada's sovereignty, its values and freedoms, with bravery and grace. The Governor General's Horse Guards' legacy and destiny is a celebration of our past, but also reminds us that making Canada one of the best countries in the world comes at a cost. The sacrifice of the generations that came before us will never be forgotten. The regiment remains strong and on call to respond to the needs of the nation, and our men and women continue the tradition of service, nulli secundus, second to none.